Recording started.
Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Community's Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 498. My name is Eric Nielsen, and with me today I have no co-hosts because of technical difficulty. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020. It is a very, very cold, chilly day today, dark gray. So the color of the Bay report is going to be just dark gray water because there is very little sun, no shimmer, no nothing, just right in the middle of January winter time in California, which isn't obviously as bad as other places, but it's pretty good. On the show today, we got a couple topics. First, we're going to talk about the vSphere 2020, what's coming on, and we have with us Senior Director Mike Hulme. Mike, welcome back as always.
Great to be here.
Great to have you in the studio. We're going to be talking about vSphere 2020 for the first part of the show, and then Mike's going to take off, and we're going to talk about ARM and what's happening with upcoming fling that might be coming out of the CTO office. Know a lot of people have been talking about when is ESX going to show up on Raspberry Pis, Raspberry Pi 4, and I got some news on that, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Maybe we'll get Corey back on the call if he'll dial in, and we'll go from there. So news, not a lot of news going on. Obviously, we're getting ready for KubeCon in Europe that's coming up, so that I think is in late February, sometime in Europe. We're getting ready to be there, talking about Kubernetes. A lot of fun stuff that's happening. Tony, are you there? Tony Foster. Your internet?
I am here, Eric.
Oh, fantastic. Just checking our internet connectivity because we've had some spottiness today. So we're just trying to iron that out. The classic January new tech deployments. It keeps mentioning your internet call is dropping. So we'll see how good we go here. But I think we're online on Skype. Skype looks healthy, so we should be able to record things as we go. All right. So talking about vSphere, we got Mike in the room. This is a big year for vSphere. I think there's going to be some new vSphere coming out down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in at VMworld in the U.S. in San Francisco back at the end of August, we actually talked about something called Project Pacific. And Project Pacific is really a great summation of just a ton of investments into vSphere, and it's all wrapped around this concept of modern applications. And that's really the kind of the overarching theme for the year, if you think of it. Helping customers to really build, run, and manage a set of applications that are, often unique from the traditional applications they've been running on vSphere, and really optimizing vSphere to be a platform for all applications. And that's going to be a big part of the next round of introductions for that product.
Well, that sounds exciting. I can't wait to just spend a little bit of time talking about that. Before we do that, why don't you give me the 1-minute elevator pitch? You've been on the podcast many times, but for anybody new that's listening, who are you? How long have you been at VMware, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I've been a part of VMware for about 10 years now. And in that time frame, we went from a company that was just launching vSphere into expanding into a bunch of these great other areas around the infrastructure. Building up. I helped our end user computing team build up our desktop and mobile practice. And then in the last 3 years, I've been working on the reframing of our overall cloud strategy. Including what we're doing with VMware Cloud on AWS, how that's part of Cloud Foundation, expanding into Azure and Google and Oracle and IBM and all these other great hyperscalers around the world.
Right. I recorded a podcast yesterday, as it turns out, on cloud architecture. We're doing a cloud architecture series podcast. And one of the things that's interesting when we talk about vSphere and its growth and the data center growth and then cloud, there's this mix of, all right, people are moving to the cloud, right? They're still running on vSphere,
right.
But they're moving vSphere into the cloud with VMC and AWS, right? Which makes total sense. Some of it's backup marketplace, some of it's just I want to have both. But then some of it is we had somebody in from Austin who is a manager of field engineers, right? And he's like, yeah, and some people are just shutting down their data centers, right? And this is a way to get into the cloud without rewriting the application, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so it was fascinating to listen to him talk about, the fact that if you are going to cloud and you don't want to have to rewrite your apps and you're looking at your data, and he said that because of vSphere, half of their data center is empty now, where they built out expecting physical machines.
Yep.
And now, because of vSphere, you saved the 20-to-1 virtualization. What is it? Physical to virtual P2V,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And now I've got empty data center, so they're like, yeah, we can shut down that building, move to cloud, but we have 5,000 applications that all run in various ways, sitting on top of vSphere, and they were getting quotes to move into the cloud.
Right.
To rewrite their applications to use microservices, and it was going to cost, and take 6 years and a ton of money. So in this sense, this year is about addressing that problem, right?
Yeah, there's a real interesting thing that you're calling out here, and it's really that the important thing for all of our customers is their applications. And as you think about the range of sort of pathways for our customers with these apps, it ranges from deciding which apps maybe still do belong in the data center. There's a set of apps that are best served on premises, in a data center, in an edge environment, and there's a range of issues around that. It might be regulatory compliance, it might be performance, it might be data locality. There's just a lot of issues that weigh in there, and for some customers, that's where it needs to be, and they just want to make that data center run as well as possible. There's another set of applications that customers want to move to the cloud, but they don't want to rewrite them. There's no reason for them to rewrite something that's working perfectly well. Right. Perhaps it's generating revenue or it's running business operations, and the last thing you want to do is risk that. And then there's a set of applications that can be rewritten, can be containerized, can be made more of a cloud-native architecture related application. And then there's a whole new set of new applications. The thing for VMware this year is we really want to be the company you can work with for all of those choices. Obviously, we're continuing to find great optimizations in the data center. VMware Cloud on AWS is a great example of bringing Cloud Foundation into a cloud environment. We're finding customers are going from spending millions of dollars to rewrite applications to simply doing a live vMotion of those same applications to the cloud, and that's a huge advantage to customers. If you want to rewrite or write new applications and you want to use something like Kubernetes, that's really where something like Project Pacific starts to come in, along with the new portfolio that we announced at VMworld in Tanzu. And all of those solutions right now are in beta. People can either start to experiment and explore with those, or they can sign up for some of the betas that may be full at this point as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the show we did yesterday, they also and it's not out yet, so I shouldn't say that because it's going to come out in a couple of weeks.
That's right. You're building anticipation.
Yeah, anticipation. It's really good because they talked about the time to move things over. And the quote they got, not only millions of dollars, but 4 years. And we came in and said, yeah, we can do it in 4 months.
That's right.
4,000 applications can shift to an Amazon instance in 4 months. And the customer didn't actually believe us, right?
That's right.
And so they came back and did a POC, showed that they could move. They moved like 1,000 in 2-3 weeks or whatever the number was. And the customer came back, this is fantastic. And it gets you there, and then you can start expanding, to your point, of start rebuilding parts of your applications, taking advantage of modern design principles.
Yeah, so we just completed some research. We talked to about 1,200 companies around the world. Some of them were VMware customers, some of them weren't. And really, by and large, the vast majority of them were spending years to migrate applications. So if you compare that to what you're finding with the VMware Cloud on AWS environment, and really any of the Cloud Foundation powered environments, it's IBM and it's all of our cloud verified partners as well. You're right in that we're accelerating that path for applications to migrate. The other thing that's interesting is that migration skill set grows over time. So people actually get faster and faster the more that they migrate. We had a great customer at VMworld who came in and spoke about how quickly they were able to migrate their entire application portfolio. But it was the first 100 that took the most amount of time, and then it was the next 600 that actually accelerated faster and faster. So customers get comfortable with it. They get to understand how things like HCX can actually layer in and help them do bulk migration between these environments. And we're building up that proficiency so that migration between these two endpoints will be just as simple as doing a vMotion within your own data center at a certain point.
Right, and then you mentioned, or some people have mentioned the idea that because we have Cloud Foundation, vSphere on Azure, on other clouds, right? The big, what they call
hyperscalers.
Hyperscaler, I don't get that, but okay, sure. They scale out hyper. Okay, funny. Because they do that, and because you have vSphere across those, that you can have a practice of migrating to one cloud or the other, and then it's not a stretch to move between those clouds if you so choose, because you want price competition going from one cloud platform to the other.
Yeah, so VMware Cloud on AWS was really it's a unique entry point for us because we own and operate that service. We jointly engineer it with AWS. It's deployed globally within the AWS cloud. So it's a great execution and model for hybrid cloud. But it's really complementary to, I think there's now 120 VMware Cloud verified partners that have deployed the full stack of technology. And so you have that analogous infrastructure that allows you to migrate applications really seamlessly. What it also gives, you have flexibility for who you want to work with. You have flexibility for where that particular cloud provider has a data center. But some of these cloud providers have really specific practices. They may be particularly astute at running SAP in the cloud, and you could work with that vendor. But what I like to really talk about is the cloud services. Each of the cloud providers is actually competing now for all of our customers' business around specific cloud services. It might be something in machine learning or artificial intelligence, something really high-end around data, something very, very specific. And what we want to do is give customers the freedom to migrate to an infrastructure that's consistent with their data center, and then have access to hundreds and thousands of really innovative cloud services of their choosing. And that's really what we have today with this portfolio of cloud services that we've made available in the market.
Yeah, it also it protects the investment in your skills and knowledge, of operating a data center and managing a data center, right? Where if you have a management paradigm that works on-prem as well as out in the cloud, that makes sense. So this is all good. We've talked about this stuff. Back to vSphere, right? I don't know how much you can talk about, like what kind of stuff. Obviously, there's the Pacific and Kubernetes, and that's all coming in 2020. Are there other things that we've focused on to move the needle when we're talking about what we're going to deliver in 2020?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big story is how we're supporting these modern application workloads, and that's really the key thing. So there's two things to think about with vSphere as it relates to what's been announced and talked about. So one is, how do we make vSphere the best platform, not just for your virtualized applications, but for all your applications? And then the second is, how do we use Kubernetes to actually re-architect vSphere and make vSphere operate in a more cloud-like manner? And those are the two things that I think are going to be the most exciting for customers. As the next version of vSphere comes to market, we'll start to see where we'll have a first-class environment for all workloads, including those based on Kubernetes. And that's really where VMware's been making a ton of investments. And the second thing is providing a platform where developers and operators can really cohabitate and coexist within this single environment. So operators continue to see the same vCenter environment that they're used to and how they manage applications and infrastructure. And developers see Kubernetes in a way that allows them to build applications and deploy them to the vSphere infrastructure in a way that's familiar for them.
Yeah, so it's interesting for somebody that's just running a data center now to actually see vSphere as kind of an on-ramp to what you need to learn to start consuming cloud services. Easy to get started there.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this is one of those things that just shows, vSphere now has 70 million workloads running on it or something, astronomical like that. And 10 million of those are actually in the cloud. So they're running within our partner data centers, supporting cloud workloads. And people really love all the great things that they've been able to get from that vSphere architecture. But what they want is to be able to know that this is going to protect them for the next 20 years. How do I, know that I'm operating in a real cloud-like experience? And then also, how do I know that the new applications that are going to be built are ones that can sit and run in this same platform? You talked about skills. Think about skills in this area. Everyone is scrambling to try and understand what are the new things that they have to learn in order to be relevant for their developers, for the next generation of applications. And VMware is not just trying to make vSphere a better platform. We're trying to really extend the skill set and all the capabilities and the tools and all the practices that all of our customers have built around this core infrastructure platform.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you get down into this path, what you start experiencing. And I know because we run multiple of our workloads over on AWS, right? And even in January, we start looking at our bill, right? And and we had turned a bunch of services off to hit a bill target coming into December, right? And we're closing out Q4. Our Q4 ends in the end of January, so we're looking at our numbers, and all of a sudden, like January 6th, our bill tripled, right? Out of nothing we did. It wasn't like we launched vExpert nominations and the traffic went up. And so there is a lot of management capability that if you just go brand new with AWS, right? I don't get that visibility. I don't have that trust with what they're doing, what they're changing. Where if we had come over on vSphere and just put it there, we know how to run our vSphere workloads. We know where we're getting charged, right? And we can manage it better because it's our practice. There's just one less new thing we have to deal with. Right.
Yeah, this is really the core of the strategy around bringing vSphere and VMware Cloud Foundation out to the public cloud is take the things that are proven, take the things that are really well known, and then extend them out into a cloud environment. You help people get there faster, but then you're also extending all of the operational benefits that come with this really unified and consistent environment. The new innovations that are coming in vSphere only make all of that even better, and so. People are just seeing a continuation of this overall strategy.
Okay, so vSphere and vSphere next release coming out, definitely coming out and I know that we have some simulcast launch. I don't know if I call it a launch or if I'm allowed to just say it's an event that we're going to be at, that you're going to be at, that you're running.
Yep.
I think it's going to be March 10th, right? And we've started to push that out on social so people can sign up.
Yeah, great. I mean, we'll people will start to see an invitation for a streamed event around our modern applications strategy and next steps. The timeline for that event is March 10th. We'd love to really get the whole community fired up on this. I think there's going to be some great new things being talked about on that event, some surprises, and really this is a good combination of all the things that we've been working on. I like to say that I think this event is kind of years in the making. We went out, we now have this great team of people from a company called Heptio that actually were the original authors and pioneers of Kubernetes. Right. The pivotal team just joined VMware formally at the end of the calendar year. We have these great new initiatives in VMware Tanzu and Project Pacific. And really, this is all coming together in this great new dimension and era of VMware's history.
Yeah, I feel like this is a coming out year. I told my team this. I'm actually I'm excited yet again, right? Every year I go, oh, this is probably it, right? Like I can't be possibly excited. But if I look at vSphere and vSphere on AWS, right, that coming together and really becoming, a teenager, if not adult, right? Like he's 19, 18, right? It's really working and it makes a lot of sense now. So a lot of people should engage there. And then if you look at Project Pacific and Kubernetes and coming together with Heptios, right? You look at Kubernetes now, we've got a really kick butt, solution here that isn't going to require you to do much other than learn some new tech and have a lot of fun with it, right? So this is going to be a good year, right?
Good.
I feel like this, and to the March 10th event, this is the beginning of what is going to be a really cool year for VMware. So I'm pretty excited about it. Right?
I agree. I think it's the start of the next chapter in VMware's history. We're excited to have people there.
All right. So before I let you go, I do have to roll back a little bit and see. I'm beginning to change my attitudes on this, but there's a bit of me that kind of goes, yeah, microservices, modern apps, Netflix did it, but if I look at the apps that I've built, I like my apps, right? Yeah. I've spent 10 years building things that I run, right? I'm not going to change it, right? But I do I look at the stuff for the vExpert app where we had it running on a server under our desk, right? And then we went, okay, maybe we need to put it in a rack somewhere at VMware, so we moved it to a rack at VMware, right? And then we had IT do it for a while, but they were so Sarbanes-Oxley. They were like, yeah, we eventually put it in AWS, right? Because, and it's not because I want to rewrite the app. I like the app, right? We like the way we wrote it. It's a client server. It's fine to use web. It's not microservices. And I look at myself and I look at a lot of apps and I go, I'm not sure how many apps really need to be broken into Kubernetes and microservices. But I do like putting my stuff on AWS in a VM that I've grown to love, only because I don't have to worry at 2 a.m. that somebody kicked a power plug out. Amazon, they worry about that stuff, right? I all I have to know is like, oh, my app's up every 20, and then we back it up, and life is good. So I'm moving to the cloud, and I'm staying on vSphere, right? Because I don't want to have to operate a data center anymore. But microservices and large scale, I mean, I think if you're huge like Tesla or big companies that are dealing with millions of customers on a day-to-day basis, you need to build these apps scalable, and this takes you to the next level. But there's just got to be probably 80% of our business that doesn't need that, but wouldn't mind getting into the cloud.
Yeah, I think that what we're really finding is just diversity is the name of the game in the market today. There's so many different types of developers, so many different types of companies. We're definitely seeing this sort of generational shift in applications, and Kubernetes is sort of at the forefront there.
Of that,
and then you find that really there's a set of applications that just need to be run reliably and securely in a very cost-effective way. And there's others that are ripe for new investment or new infusion of innovation. And I think what is nice about the way that we're executing our strategy is we're giving people the flexibility to match the needs of the application to the infrastructure and services to make it successful. So the scenarios you outlined, I think all of those are supported by the strategy, and it really speaks to the very thoughtful strategy that the company has rolled out and the way that we've stayed true to making that a reality. So we're excited about the next chapter, and thanks for
Mike
having me
Hulme,
today.
Mike Hulme, Senior Director of Cloud Marketing. Words to live by. We are all not the same.
That's right.
Awesome.
Exactly. Diversity is the name
Well, good
of the
luck.
game.
We'll see you on March 10th. Sign up for the event, guys, and we'll start talking about ARM next. So thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep. All right. Well, back. Always fun to have Mike join us in the studio, and we'll start talking a little bit about ARM now. I think I lost Corey Romero. Not sure he joined back on the TalkShoe call or not. Tony Foster, let's do an audio check.
Yeah, Eric, I'm here.
Oh, good. All right, Corey is here. Fantastic. So me and Corey had a meeting this morning and had a good conversation with a guy named Sunil Katyan, I think I want to say his name is. And Sunil is out of the CTO office. We're going to bring him on the show, but we thought we'd just talk a little bit about what he had to say today. So Corey, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Sunil wanted to do from a blog perspective?
Yeah, so we're going to spin up a vSphere related blog on blogs.vmware.com, and relation to vSphere is going to be vSphere on ARM, right? So we're going to be able to officially run vSphere on Raspberry Pis, which is cool. And I believe Pat had talked about this at VMworld, and I know we had some labs running as well. We had some little bit of issues doing it ourselves. But I do know that the ARM folks have been working on a new API as well, or some additional functions in the API, so that way it'll work with vSphere.
Yep.
And I'm excited to help Sunil build the blog and kick that off.
Yeah, I think that's a big movement from the CTO office in that they've come and asked us formally, because we do run the blogs at VMware.com, to spin up a ARM blog, right? That they're going to be talking about how vSphere runs on ARM, and he mentioned that it's not just vSphere; they're also looking at vSAN and NSX, right? So the whole cloud foundation on the ARM stack, which then we always go, okay, yeah, that's great, but having been speaking about Raspberry Pis for the last year and a half here at VMware and showing ESX on a Raspberry Pi over a year ago, I've had like 150 questions questions about when are we going to see something that we could run on a Raspberry Pi for fun at home. And I think the backstory of the blog is also that they do have a release that's going to work on Raspberry Pi 4, and they're going to spin up a Fling that you can then go get the code and run ESX on your Raspberry Pi 4, which should be a lot of fun. A lot of people have asked me, when are we going to get it? And I've always had to push back, going, I have no idea. It looks like, to your point, the ARM people did the drivers necessary for the Ethernet on board the Raspberry Pi. I know that was missing. You had to go buy a special dongle to make your ESX connect. So we do get that. So they did that work, and I think that the ARM people have been generously, making headway in doing additional drivers for different ARM platforms, which is good. That has led the CTO office to propose a Fling. The Fling has been approved, and I think we're going to get a Fling that will run ESX on a Raspberry Pi. The thing is, when, right? Because this has been the $100 question. When will we get this out of the CTO office? And the answer is they've got it ready to go, but they've got it ready to go on the current code base, which isn't released yet. So to Mike Hulme's point, we are going to be doing a release of the next vSphere, and once that release is released, the Fling will also be shortly behind it. So we should see the new vSphere coming out from VMware support through a Fling, and notice Fling is not a supported product, but it is the code will be released to allow you to run ESX on Raspberry Pi. I don't think they're thinking about vCenter yet, but they did. I think they are, vSAN and possibly NSX. I don't know where that drops. But we thought we would have Sunil join us to have some conversation around as we get closer to the next release of vSphere, which would then support Raspberry Pi 4. That we'll have him on the show and talk to him about it, and he probably will be able to tell more as we get closer to the announcement. Another thing just to note here. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah, that's, we have had a lot of people, and I should have Julia swing the camera over and show the bags of Raspberry Pis. I think we have like 50 Raspberry Pi backpacks full of all the gear that we did the lab last year. We're looking at what we do for a lab this year on Raspberry Pi. And we're thinking about AI, right? vSphere has some AI stuff. So if we can get vSphere running on Raspberry Pi 4s, we're going to do an AI app that will run on those Raspberry Pi 4s. If you're on the live stream, I think she's showing you that the backpacks of all the Raspberry Pis that we did on all the labs are sitting in the studio. So, but our goal for next year is to actually then, if we've got vSphere on a Raspberry Pi 4, and then we do have the AI technology that is available for us to use, that we could build some very smart applications and do some AI work for VMworld this year. So that's kind of what I'm starting to work with Kripa on, and we'll see how that goes. At the same time, we're working with William Lamb and Kyle Ruddy around a code challenge where we're going to be doing some, we're going to put out a code challenge, and various VMUGs can participate in the code challenge and get scored. And if they are scored, they build that app, we're going to then bring them all to VMworld and do a final competition. So all revolving around that idea that you can put vSphere on ESX, and the new vSphere will support that. So out of a Fling, and that should be a lot of interesting fun. So it was fun to actually get Sunil on the call, and they're excited about the blog. We don't know the name of the blog yet. Corey, do we know the name of the blog yet, or are they still deciding that?
We don't. I'm waiting to have that meeting with Ishmail, and once we have that, we'll have the name of it, and we'll do some, social media promotion of that as well as having links on the blogs.vmware.com homepage. So we'll help promote that too. So interesting. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it should be fun. So a lot of stuff this year between the new vSphere. We can't talk about it yet. We can't actually name the number. So we're prohibited, I think, because of RevRec. It's coming, near the end of the quarter. I'm not sure how that's working out. We're not allowed to use the number yet. So then, all we can say is the next release of vSphere, and I like to call it vSphere in 2020. Should be fun. And then Project Pacific, if you want to have a platform that runs Kubernetes, the March 10th simulcast that's going to be talking about the new releases will take us through what that looks like, I think, and the timelines and availability for Kubernetes embedded or on top of vSphere, right? So kind of a neat time to lead up to that. So I'm looking forward to the beginnings of the year and the announcements that are available, the stuff we're going to do on Raspberry Pis. Finally, we can get our Cloud Foundation running on those guys and have a lot of fun with that. The nice thing about the Raspberry Pis is they're small enough that we can drop ship them. We can just send them to people. So I know that we gave all the vExperts Raspberry Pis that came to VMworld. So I think we gave away some number. Yep. Somebody asked me how many we actually gave away. Did we? I think we gave away somewhere in upwards of 600. If I were to try to answer that question off the top of my head.
Yeah, between both VMworlds, easily up to 600.
Yep. And again, because the Raspberry Pi 4s, you can actually run Kubernetes on Raspberry Pi 3s, but because Raspberry Pi 4 has 4 gig of memory versus the Raspberry Pi that only has 1 gig, you actually have enough memory that you can get vSphere and Kubernetes, all launched and a Kubernetes app running. So another great way to increase your skill set, be able to talk logically on what's actually happening in modern apps, which is kind of neat. The other thing that came out this last week that I thought is worthy mentioning is just when I was interviewing the field engineer, he's a field engineering manager, he actually said, they're seeing a lot of instances where people that were doing disaster recovery were taking their old machines from the previous generation, and that's what they would put in their a disaster recovery data center to get disaster recovery, right? They didn't have the budget to buy all new hardware, so they would take the previous generation and cycle it into disaster recovery to the disaster recovery site. The problem with that tended to be your performance on those older machines aren't as, they're 2x slower than your new machines. So as your current data center gets loaded, your disaster recovery data center doesn't have the horsepower to actually run everything you've got running in your current data center. So the neat thing about having cloud and vSphere 7 connecting is that you just have VMC on AWS act as your high availability, disaster recovery DR data center, and then you don't get a bill unless you're using them. So you get a smaller bill to set it up and enable it, but then you don't get a big bill unless you turn those guys on, which is a big cost saving. So they're seeing DR use cases like crazy, right? And that's interesting in that that's going to decrease the number of data centers that people are operating. And that's the first time I actually got really concrete, and maybe I'm the last guy in the party that knows this truth, that we're going to see a reduction in data centers, right? That's probably a given, or maybe we'll see it flatline, or maybe a 1 or 2% growth. But if you're in the business of running data centers today, because you're a traditional IT person, you're going to want to, learn vSphere, the next release of vSphere. You're going to want to learn Project Pacific, because the growth isn't going to be in operating data centers and deploying into data centers. The growth for us and bigger raises and more money is going to be managing infrastructure that's all over the place in the cloud, as Mike says, offerings. And this is the first time I've actually had somebody from the field come in and go, the number of data centers is definitely in decline, right? He's like, and if you just look at the data centers that were doing disaster recovery, they're shifting those workload over. Modern apps is pushing the workload over a little bit. So it's actually interesting to finally then get confirmation that yes, this is going to be impacting, job roles, right? Now, more jobs might be there because there are going to be more modern apps. Everything is an app, IoT, everything is going to have a digital component to it. So number of applications that need to be deployed are going to go up. And I think Pat Gelsinger got on stage last year, or maybe it was the year before, and did a kind of a graph of the number of applications that are going to be deployed, how many VMs are going to be deployed, right? And VMs were a graph was, up to the right, but just at a low growth, right? It was like a 3 or 5 or 7% growth of number of VMs that'll be deployed. But then number of apps that were going to be deployed in the cloud, it was like tripling. It was just like, it was going to be 50 million or something like that. And it was a huge number. And so we're seeing that play out in infrastructure. And then this year, when you're talking about, what we're releasing in our stack to help everybody move in that direction is, what we're going to be talking about in March. So excited about that. I think it's a new job role for a lot of us, right, in that we're going to be talking about more applications, building applications, how to deploy those applications. Yep, you still need network fabric, you still need storage fabric, but that might be coming in a hybrid environment, and some of it might just be coming from cloud, period, and then you just have to deal with what bill you're getting from your cloud provider at the end of the quarter, and then trying to manage to that, which is what I'm doing. By the way, what did we do with vExperts in January? Were all the apps being processed? Because I noticed my Amazon bill, went back up again, right? But I think it's just something Amazon did. But we could tie that back into how is the vExpert application process? Are we all done?
No. Well, the applications, as far as being open, those are closed now, right? So we're currently in the voting process. So we're going through and doing the voting. I'm voting. The vExpert Pros are voting. The vExpert Pros right now are focusing on their regions, and once they're done with their regions, they'll move on to U.S. applications as well. So that's where we are. We're planning on so the original date was a late February announcement, but it's looking like we might make it sooner than that. So, once we get done and get everything wrapped up and get everything reviewed, and it's done, I will reach out to the vExperts in the community on social as well and do the announcement. So hopefully we get it done early. That would be great, and we get that out, ahead of time. So,
that's because we have that microservices. That's because we got that microservices application that's running that that makes it so efficient now that the pros all across the world just jump on it. Yeah, that's it. It's not client server. No, yes it is. Well, that's good. Good work to everybody. Looking forward to getting all the vExpert awards out and getting ready for the next year. 600 Raspberry Pis. I don't know how we're going to top that, right? Then we got the all the blog articles that are happening in the RSS stream. So a lot of activity happening now, getting ready for this launch. Yeah, very happy. Tony Foster, we should talk barbecue before we run out of time. I know we got a late start, so we're only at probably minute 45. But I don't think I've done any barbecuing other than what I talked about last week, right? Which is just understanding how to make pork in a steamer and then crusting it at the end. Anything interesting for you? I know that Tim Davis did a barbecue, put it on his Facebook feed. I forget what it was, but the interesting thing is he almost left it raw inside. It was really interesting. He was really proud.
It was picanha. It's his first picanha.
Picanha. What is picanha?
It's the what do they call it? The culotte. That's what it's called. It's called the culotte. It's got a cap of fat on there that makes it real greasy and good, and when you cook it just right, it just melts in your mouth.
I know he used an egg for it to do it, but I looked at the photos of it, and it looked like it was a raw piece of meat. So I'm not sure. I don't know if that's for me or not. Maybe it's good. I'm like, are you sure?
It's like
You cooked it?
I'm going to have to go look this up because I hadn't seen this one. So
yeah,
I'm going to have to go look that one up.
Yeah, he put it on his Facebook. Looked like a heck of a piece of meat. Looked like it was a $100 piece of meat on its own, right? Like, but then after it was done, it was on his plate, and I'm like, I'm not sure you're supposed to eat it that way, but apparently so. So good times. Good times.
So this weekend I actually got my new smoker set up, seasoned it and everything, and did a pork loin in it.
Nice.
Turns out absolutely phenomenal.
Fantastic. That's good. It is 1:03 p.m. here in California, and I'm hungry. And I have a 1 to 1:30 and a 1:30 to 3:30. So I'm not going to get lunch. So I'm just going to have to live with no barbecue. We are going to have the ARM folks on, and we are getting someone from vSAN to come next week and talk to us about what's happening with hyperconverged technology. So that'll be on for next week, and we'll continue the drumbeat getting ready for the launch. We're going to have some of the other people, the Kubernetes guys, come in and talk to us about Project Pacific and vSphere integration and what that's going to mean to the rest of us as we learn how they've done that. So I'm excited about that as well. So we got some good podcasts coming up. We're getting our technology sorted out. We're allowing people to dial into the Skype now so that we have less lag when people talk to us, the regulars. So hopefully we'll get that ironed out. We definitely are having some network connection. I'm still getting flags on my screen telling me that my internet service is lagging. So. But we'll get that ironed out and hopefully have a good year. And we are coming up to podcast number 500. We are going to recruit Pat Gelsinger to come in, as well as John Troyer, Michelle Laverick, and I can't remember the other guy. He's on the photo. Who knows the old podcast guy? That was Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan something. Johnson? Ryan Johnson? I want to say it wasn't Johnson. But anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, Ryan Johnson. Yep,
Ryan Johnson. So we're going to get Ryan Johnson, Michelle Laverick, John Troyer, and Pat Gelsinger. That's going to be 500, which is coming up in 2 weeks, I think. I better get that scheduled.
Have you reached out to Alex Mayer yet?
No, we're not. Alex, yeah, you're right. Alex was the news on the podcast back with John Troyer. I have lost contact with Alex Mayer. If somebody knows Alex Mayer's, she's probably on Twitter. I probably can just direct message her. That would be fun. Get her back on as well. Get an update for everybody. So that's what we're planning. I don't know if it's going to be right on 500. We might do podcast 499.1, 0.3, 0.6 until we actually get Pat on his calendar. But I'm going to work on that today. So that's coming up. Excited about that. John Troyer has committed, so we'll just get everybody in and have a great show. See if we can get a bunch of people online live for that one. And with that, it's 1:05 in the afternoon. Got a late start, but that's how it goes. We will be back again next week. Until then, everybody have some barbecue and have a great rest of your week.